It has been quite a topic for me to understand Constitution, to understand reservation, because people have uh, diverse views about it, gross views of for and against. So we need a constitutional orientation, I thought, and therefore opted for a topic which could be popular, could be unpopular. Either way, I'm sure as persons trained in law to move to litigation, some of you could still be in corporate sector, going for a 9 to 5 job. But if you are in courts, then you'll be working at home, you'll be working in the court, and there is so much to fight for. So therefore, I thought I'll initiate you or prime you to some kind of a fight, and we'll all understand that the fighting is still, in a sense, a manner of a dignified duel amongst persons wearing the full dress on with the black coats. It's a dignified fight, which is taking away the conflict from the street brawls. So therefore, here you have, I'll share some slides with you. My attempt will be now to introduce some concepts to you in the subject of reservation, and probably take just one or two aspects which are engaging the attention of a lot of people. So therefore, I'll just take that, and then I'm sure we'll have some debate on what I'm saying. So I'll just abide for my slides to come on. Yeah. I will also share with you something. Many of the slides are what you see here. They're all from your own campus. So I picked up from your campus some photographs and some slides. So therefore, if you're seeing something exciting for you, you can probably associate yourself there in one of the pictures. It's possible, or it could be your library. So all that will be possible for you to see. So understanding reservation in terms of constitutional philosophy, I thought the reservation, if we must take a view, if we swear by the Constitution and we want to work the Constitution, we will understand that in the area of empowerment of people, it is a very essential subject. Therefore, how are we going to see it? I will let you know that it will happen in three ways. One, as an economic concept, and how it is moral that we have reservation, and as a constitutional idea. This is how I plan to expose the topic for you. And as an economic concept, what do we understand? As a reservation as an economic concept, it's a simple principle of economics of what you could probably be studying in your course, that it's the demand and supply. It is that causes the price or value for anything. So if you're saying that there is something in short supply, where something is in scarce, where the resources are scarce, there is a greater demand for that. The price is more. And to that extent, you'll find in some way we need to, with the available seats, we need to redistribute it in some way which can satisfy. We need to have some goals so that not everyone can have. We will be therefore choosing some persons as to how a distribution of the given resources are possible. And therefore, as a corollary, when education is costly, the access will have to be therefore regulated. Education, when I say costly, it is pricey in various ways. That the fee could be heavy, it could be the less number of seats, and therefore it is pricey. In whatever way it is, it has to be in some way regulated, otherwise there is utter chaos and mayhem. And when the avenues, so now what are we now talking about education for? We talk about education in order to get employed somewhere. We want to make a living out of it. Education is, for education's sake, surely it exists. I'm not saying it does not exist, that you want to improve knowledge. Improve knowledge for what? You need to make a living, you need to develop a family. That is how the civilizational advancements go. That you have a family, you have the society, you care for the society, you care for the family, and then it moves on. That's how it goes. So therefore, to that extent, we will understand, we will go from education to employment. Therefore, these are the two principal areas we are talking about. When we're talking about reservation, we are talking about where is the education and who should be educated. How do we distribute those resources in order that education has a meaning. If they get employed, how do we find the state resources to be fully exploited? How do we help those classes of persons who are still backward to come on even? So this is where we'll see. Therefore, as an economic concept, reservation has a meaning to see how it is redistributed. Now, I also said that it has a moral view, moral thought about it. We must recognize that it's all easier said that all are equal. And we all understand all are equal, but some people are more equal than others. It's a famous joke. So therefore, it is on account of some historical wrongs which have come over a period of time. And therefore, the idea will be to correct those historical wrongs. And that we will take as a society to correct it. That kind of a collective responsibility will take. And more important, that in the way we talk about the redistribution of resources, we are also talking about promoting diversity. What is extraordinary about India, if somebody is asking, you may probably say it is a diverse culture. It's about language. It's about the landforms. It's about the way the people look. It's all not, if you go to Europe, probably you'll all find all white people. Here you have brown, you have white, you have black, you have curly hair, you have straight hair, you have sharp noses, you have yellow. Look for variety, there you have in India. Look for variety in languages, yeah, sure, you have in India. So that is the kind of country that we have. And that diversity, how do we have a kind of a balance? That's what we'll be thinking, and that is a moral question. I thought I should introduce you to something, even as I progress, of one Hopwood's case. This will have a relevance to what we are going to see later when we are talking about education. This is about Hopwood was, Miss Hopwood was a lady who was a single mother. She brought up a child. Obviously, when I say single mother, the child didn't have a father. The lady didn't live with that man who procreated, who was responsible for the child. And she stitched. She went to office, worked late hours. She did everything to see that she gave a good life to the child. And she had the child had come to the final year of the schooling, and she was applying. She wanted to be a law graduate, and she wanted to go into litigation practice. So this child, the mother was all keen. Hopwood is trying to help her all out, fill in all obligations, and then the exams. They also had some kind of some test, preliminary test. She had wonderful grades in her school, and then she was seeking for admission in Texas University of Law. So at the time, she was expecting a call from the university. It so happened, in spite of all the good marks, she was not selected. She was upset for the child. She was upset for herself. What have I done? I worked so hard. I wanted to put up my child in a good school. She will come out and then be also an attorney at law, and she will be able to bring wealth to herself, to me, to also be of immense service to society. Why is it not happening? So she was very unhappy. She wrote it out. She gave a memorial. The university rejected. She said that we can't help you. I'm sorry, the child did well, but then we can't give admission. And they said, among other things, this is what is the key. They said, see, we have only limited number of seats. We don't find your child to be inadequate in anything. It's just that we require diversity in our campus. And therefore, this child who you have, we are not able to accommodate because there are other students of that cultural background, that geographical background. We need more Hispanics. We need more Afro-Americans in our classes. So therefore, in that particular course, when they're looking for numbers, they had some priority, or they had assigned some seats for Hispanics and also some Afro-Americans. And therefore, they found a Caucasian child that she was. They were not able to give admission to that. She took it to the US Supreme Court. And before the Supreme Court, what was argued again was everything is good about her. Her marks are high. If she has secured more than any other person, why is she not being granted admission? And the university came with the same answer of what they said. And they said it is not possible because in the society where she could be practicing, in place in Texas, which has a border to the Mexico, there are going to be a sizable population of Hispanics. The sizable population of people who speak Spanish and who have a different culture. There are also in the mines, several mines, oil mines of what we have, there are several Afro-Americans, and there could be a lot of those people as well here as litigants, we know. And therefore, even the lawyer, even the judge, we would want these population, the local population, to associate themselves, to see themselves one with the person who they can relate well, to a Hispanic, to an Afro-American. So we were looking for more numbers in that group as well. We have exhausted the quota for these people, for whites of US. So we want some other combination. Therefore, we can't be compelled to take this. And the Supreme Court said, yes, the management has a sound reason as to why they have a particular kind of classification, why they want a redistribution of seats and banners, which will advance the cause of the society is good. So we won't be able to compel them. And ultimately, she realized, and that's what the court said, that there is nothing wrong. Probably the manner in which the letter was addressed to the child was not fair. The letter, if it had been, we regret the admission for you, it was probably not correct. It could have been like, you have been a great student, you have competed very well. We find you to be truly worthwhile to be admitted. But only that in our policy of admission, we assign several groups of people, several categories of people from several ethnic backgrounds. We are not able to accommodate you. That would have served the purpose better, they said. And that is what this thing. Just have this in your mind. Keep it in your mind to what I'm going to be telling you later. That's what comes to the next thing. Academic excellence, that's what the Supreme Court said in USA. Academic excellence cannot necessarily be the only criterion for admission. This is, what are we now in colleges for? Is it not for academic excellence, you may ask. But everyone will know, your dean will know, I know, your professor knows, that all of us can't be class number one in the class. And there are various persons. But in the way we achieve in society over a period of time, what we have come to, it could all be different. We may have arrived in different places. Somebody being a professor, somebody being a judge, somebody being a lawyer. We arrive to different destinations. We may have different capabilities. All of us probably worked hard. We did that. But then the society comprises of not necessarily all of them exceedingly academically bright. It doesn't happen like that. It just can't, we can't hope for a situation like that. Therefore, the point is, an academic excellence alone, don't think about, when I want to translate it in terms of academic excellence, brilliance, merit, high level of merit, all that alone do not matter. Is something which you know. Admission is not, again, therefore, is not a reward for academic merit. It serves a social cause to fulfill a goal of equality. Like I was saying, a wide representation, like what had happened in Hopwood's case, or what went to the Supreme Court in USA. It is not necessarily a reward. An admission is not a reward for academic merit. This is something which, these are all purely issues of morality, and therefore I thought it has a space, it has a value, it has an important aspect when we are talking about reservation. And then you must also know some reservations as a historical perspective. Just to keep these names, because I have again some reason why I want to say this. In the pre-constitutional period, long time back, probably in the 19th century, Jyotiba Phule from Maharashtrian, she called to the attention of people that the caste discrimination that exists in Maharashtra is large. We need to come away from this. Women are not empowered enough. We need education for women. That was Phule. And just not that, apart from social workers like Phule, even the Maharaja of Baroda, then you had in other places in Travancore, in Mysore, there were progressive Maharajas who were giving adequate assistance, scholarships to persons who were good but who could not afford education. So you have some economical consideration of what was being taken, but then they were having scholarships to wide class of persons. Therefore, even amongst the elitist class, there were persons who were prepared to look to those needs of those persons who required that assistance. And in the constitutional debate, you'll find the matter of reservation of 165 days of what the Constituent Assembly sat and debated. They took on two subjects enormous time. One was on the issue of language, and language grew to be exceedingly acrimonious. What should be the national language? What is the space for persons in Tamil Nadu or any of the South Indians whose language was completely distinct from Hindi, and how we should have a language? Would English be the language or Hindi will be a language? Could it be in lingua franca? That was exceedingly hotly contested. The second area of contest was on the issue of reservation, because even as a person, Ambedkar was the chairman of the drafting committee. There were persons who said, now look, you're talking about reservation, you're talking about the empowerment of Dalits, you're talking about scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. How do you bring education and employment and reserve for that? If you have the chairman, if you have a Dalit who could become a chairman of the drafting committee, then it means persons of merit can come at any time, at any way, to the highest position. Why a reservation was what they were asking. Therefore, Ambedkar's position itself was taken to be a point which was against reservation, which we know as how unfair it was. Therefore, he was never at any point of time did he ever give up the cause for the upliftment of those downtrodden. He never did he believe that I have arrived in some place, I'm fine, so what do I care? That was not the way Ambedkar looked. He had very strong reasons to see that what he had obtained, he needs the whole community of people to bring them up. And that is what was done. And amongst them, in fact, Ambedkar, even during his time, he was in the Viceroy's Executive Council. He had secured, even at the time for 1943 reservation services in SC, he was able to secure in Viceroy's Council. And separate electorates was strongly canvassed for. Gandhi strongly opposed it. We all know it's a matter of history. I will not go into it right now. And they also wanted inclusion of Muslims and Christians among the beneficiaries of reservation in the legislative, through law. But that also failed. We'll have a look at it quickly, not too big. Minorities, where do they figure in the area of reservation? We'll see, but not in a big way. And because they don't enjoy the SC/ST status. It's only applicable only for Hindus which are given a wider definition of including Buddhists, of other persons, of Sikhs, Jains, all of them. They would be entitled to SC/ST status, but it does not apply to either Christians or Muslims. They could figure as backward classes. They can't come as SC/ST, even if a SC person or ST person got converted, because there are cases like that. And just that you need to know that there was strong debates at all times during the Constituent Assembly discussions, and they wanted, and what has come to us and what we are going to be seeing came after a lot of discussion, and therefore each provision has an immense value of what we'll see now. And the constitutional provision, where do we see this happening? It can probably, you can immediately post constitution, two matters came that substantially affected the way we understand the provisions relating to reservation. Any person will know Article 14 when we talk about any student of constitutional law knows, and that equality principle is brought under Article 14. Article 15 and Article 16. Article 15 talks about special provisions for women and children and education, and for reservation for backward classes. And Article 16 talks about employment. 15 and 16 are not exceptions when we are talking about exceptions, and when we are talking about equality. On the other hand, it is in order that we have equality that we have 15 and 16. They all go together. And I said that they were in a large way affected through Kelkar and Mandal. We'll come to it immediately. These are the provisions. Just before that, because I'm going to tell you something. Just to look at some of the faces at least. Pule is the person whom you are seeing there in the picture. Narayana Guru Edava from Kerala, who was responsible for temple entry. He was responsible for taking our society away from evil beliefs, superstitions. And Rajaram Mohan Rai, again a great social reformer who was responsible. He was now no Raja, though he had an appellation Raja. There was a person from Bengal who started the Brahma Samaj. He also was responsible that our Hindu society is in a large way. When I'm talking about our Hindu society, I'm only saying from a geographical point of view, that this society is filled with so much of superstition that must be driven. And down south, particularly, a person of immense contribution in the form of social justice was E.V. Ramasamy. And the photograph of what you have, E.V. Ramasamy is on his shoulder, is Ambedkar's hand. His contribution is enormous for what came through the mandala and the resistance of what the North saw. The South didn't see as much. It was probably because persons like Narayan Guru, persons like Vaidyanatha, persons like E.V. Ramasamy, they had all primed the people to accept that there had been long centuries of oppression of certain classes of persons. We need empowerment. And therefore, he took the language in a fashion which was easily understandable. These are the persons who are oppressed. Let us therefore ignore them. Let us move on, march on. That is the way. So some of Mr. E.V. Ramasamy's expressions were probably crude, but then he had a message. So we need that to know that he has a large space. We need to understand that his contribution to social justice and preparation that the people of South India got, the south of India, was enormous. So some of those phases, at least, I thought I should put you through. They're important. And where do these reservation provisions lie embedded? I'll run through quickly. When we are talking about employment, we see under Article 15, you will have as students of law, you will just know 1, 2, 3, 4. You will know when we are talking about 15.1. 15.1 talks about non-discrimination on the ground of religion, caste, etc. Clause 2, it talks about access to public places and shops. So therefore, this is about non-discrimination and access is what the section is about. Now, you have special provisions coming there. Clause 3 onwards, women and children, special laws can be there. We'll not mind about children right away, or that how special care and care provision, the juvenile justice care and custody, how we have moved towards that 2015 law, the special provisions. That's all different for us. But women have reservation in some places. Women reservation because Phule, among other persons, and Kelkar, I made a reference about Kelkar. Kelkar was the chairman of the first Backward Classes Commission, and he had an extraordinary theory. He said, all women, we must take them as backward, irrespective of the caste or irrespective of the community to which the person belongs. Because the women empowerment, without women empowerment, we will not be able to achieve anything. That was what was Kelkar's report, and his first commission said that. And we have therefore a provision which talks about making special provisions for women. How do we make special provisions for women? In the manner of education, in the manner of employment, in the manner of even constitution representation in the parliament. We have had a lot of difficulties to even think of 30% reservation. Women are 50%, except in 2 states, in Kerala and in the northeast, in some of those places in Mizoram and other places where you have more women than men. But then they don't occupy space in employment, in public places. They are not in big numbers. So therefore, we need reservation. This is what, therefore, special provisions is possible there under Article 15.3. And notwithstanding anything under Article 29.2, 29.2 is about minorities. You will not deny to minority institution merely because it's a minority institution. nothing will be denied in the manner of education. That is 29.2. Advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens. This came through the First Amendment. I'll tell you immediately what brought the First Amendment. That is the First Amendment, which for advancement of educationally backward classes. See that now they are not using the expression backward caste. Not there is a reference about caste. It talks about backward classes. And then clause 5, notwithstanding anything under 19.1g, 19.1g is a freedom to practice any profession, calling, business. That is fundamental freedoms. Reservation for social and economically backward classes and SC/ST, for this comes for the first time in the SC/ST expression there, for admission to education institutions other than minority institutions. Now, minority institutions, because Article 29 and 30 protect the management, autonomy for management, and therefore you can't force them in some way. But then this again has come through some changes. And then this 93rd Amendment, now the latest amendment of what has happened during the Modi's regime is economically weaker sections, EWS as they say. 103rd Amendment has been brought, which says it will provide for any state can make a law providing for an additional 10% reservation over and above the existing reservation. These are the provisions relating to education, special protection for women, for backward classes, educational needs, or what you can do for economically backward sections. This is how Article 15 pans out. In the field of employment, you will see Article 16. It contains these things. Public appointment, there will be equality of opportunity. Does it happen? When we are talking about reservation, what are we doing? Therefore, it marks out some exceptions. Non-ineligibility and non-discrimination to hold any employment of office. Nobody can be denied an office merely because a person belongs to this place or he has some any handicap. None of those things are possible. Residence could be a criterion. This came through a case from Andhra Pradesh where they said it is not possible to distinguish between give preference to persons, mulkis and Telangana, when the Andhra Pradesh was made and they were in the reorganization of states, persons who were there occupying already in the Hyderabad and around, they will have some preferences in the jobs. And this was brought in question. And they said it is not possible. You can't have the issue of residence as a criterion for bringing any reservation. And when the court decided like that, there was an amendment brought to nullify the judgment, and they brought the amendment through the seventh amendment brought residence also could be a criterion if it makes out a case. And then reservation of backward classes in posts not adequately represented. No, you can, therefore you can provide for promotion, you can provide for some areas of employment where persons are not adequately represented. Some persons of the backward classes are not represented at all. You can make special provisions for that. Reservation of backward classes, that is under 4. And 16.4 is a very key provision, because through Article 16.4, there have been any number of litigations, because who are backward, are they sufficiently represented or not? What kind of data have you collected? Is there a compulsion to gather data? Without data, will you be able to make reservation? This came recently, you may have also read in the paper, that a state cannot, if it chooses not to provide for reservation to certain classes of persons, there is nothing like a fundamental right to reservation. You can't now seek for a reservation. An advertisement is made without making any reservation for some post. And there is no policy spelled out. And they have not considered, they have not taken any kind of study whether any class, a particular class of persons are not adequately represented. You can't compel. It created big furor everywhere. Leaders from various sections of the society were saying the Supreme Court judgment was wrong. But this is the Supreme Court's view. It has at all times been that Reservation can't be a fundamental right. It is for the states to pronounce policies depending on the parameters which are already laid down. That is how it comes. And reservation for promotion. Therefore, you allow for reservation to be given in the manner of employment, which are not sufficiently represented. And that percentage, what should be the percentage of representation? They said for scheduled caste, it should be something. For scheduled tribe, it should be something. And for backward classes, see, it has gone now up to 22%, 15% for scheduled caste, 7% for scheduled tribe. And for OBC, it is 27%. That makes up to about 49%. The idea of 49% is because elsewhere in a judgment, it said it can't increase more than 50%. It has to be less than 50%. That was State versus Balaji, a case which went from Tamil Nadu. They decided that 50 is the maximum, because the idea was, when we are talking about a balance, that you simply reserve all seats for all people, then how will there be fairness? There is no fairness to persons who can't be reserved. All persons can't be backward. We are a moving society. So therefore, it provides for a reasonableness. They pegged it therefore to 50%. And therefore they said, you can bring a person in at the stage, or you recruit, you draft them some classes of persons. How do they move up? If they can't move, they'll be staggering at the same place. A class 4 must go to class 3 to class 2, then class 1. Supposing there could be lateral entries of a person coming through a regular market. But then if somebody goes, there must be avenues of employment and promotion. In that promotion also, reservation can be done. It came through because this was again to annul some judgment when they said that you can't promote to people only on the basis of some reservation. This will be against merit. This was Indira Sani. Promotion they can't make. They immediately therefore brought about an amendment. And they said, if you come on a promotion, and in that promotion, if there are two persons, I come through reservation, yet another person is there in the job who is before me, who is a general candidate. Now what happens is, I am now granted promotion because there is a slot available there, and there is a reservation which is possible for a promotion. They have carried out some data research and they found they are not adequately represented in the higher post, therefore I get promoted. If I get promoted as a reserve candidate, the moment on his own term the general candidate gets promoted, he will get back his seniority in a lower post by a principle called as a catching up principle. This he will catch up is what Januva, Juneja, Januva is what you can say, is a case from Punjab and Haryana. They said now that promotion, if it happens, now at that promoted post, you won't be able to retain your seniority. The moment your own senior at the lower post, he comes on a promotion, he will catch up with you and will be treated as your senior. The seniority may have value to consideration for further promotions. And therefore, this was the principle. And therefore, you had an amendment which was made. Again, carry forward rule is a case where there are some slots for appointment in a higher post. You don't have enough number of candidates for promotion, or there are no seats to be filled of that particular backward class. And then the next batch of persons come for promotion, come for recruitment. In which case, if there is a vacancy which has not been filled up, it will be lost. Now, they said that will not be lost. You will still be able to carry forward whatever is not being filled up. It can be carried to the next one. And this carry forward principle will retain the issue of the total number of seats. It will be irrespective of the 50% rule. When the 50% says more than 50%, you can't bring a reservation. But by a carry forward rule on any one particular year in 2020, for seats which were vacant last year, which could not be filled up, if you are bringing those vacancies also to be filled up now, it can upset the 50%, but then it's still possible, is what the thought is. So therefore, that also came through an amendment. And it says like Article 15, you have also economic consideration coming through Article 16. There is another area when we are talking about reservation. I said area of education, area of public employment. Another area which is important and vital is the political considerations relating to representation of people, reserved constituencies where you have exclusive SC people, representatives who will be voted to the parliament. So therefore, delimitation of constituencies reserved for persons belonging to the backward classes is also there, provided there under the constitution. But we'll just keep them, that they exist is what we'll know. Now in this, just know these concepts also. Do it quickly. One, is there anything? Do I carry on? Do I see some hear some noise?
Yes,
fine?
sir.
Yeah, I'm fine. All right. I said there is something called a vertical and horizontal reservation. When we are talking about reservation for women and children, we are talking about horizontal reservation. What is that horizontal reservation? Horizontal reservation is when you have 30%, say for instance, there are 100 seats. You make a reservation of 30% for women, let's say. In the manner in which the reservation will take place is they first make the order of merit. In the order of merit, they will take the, let us say 70 is non-reserved. Let us assume so, and 30 is reserved. And now that 70, supposing there are 8 persons in the order of merit, and then you come to the women. This 8 in the general, they will not have independently another 30. The 8 will be consumed out of the 30. Therefore, in the reserved seats, you will have only 22 women. So on the whole, it will be 30. So horizontal will be that which a person can occupy even without reservation. If that person has come through merit or in general consideration or general category, then that will be completely consumed and exhausted, and horizontally the reservation will be applied. Vertical reservation is something, so for handicapped people is the same thing. If 3% reservation is given, if a handicapped person competes in general category and occupies a seat, his seat will be consumed against that 3%. He will not have, apart from that, some other handicapped person cannot occupy that post. And the same way for ex-servicemen also, in some categories of employment, like in service of security personnel somewhere, ex-servicemen could be granted some percentage of representation, and that will be exhausted if he comes through open general category. If he's occupying, if he has been selected, he would have exhausted that number in this reserved seat also. But vertical reservation is completely which is different. Vertical reservation is, you will have your first list drawn. The list, first you will find what is the number of seats. Let us say 15 seats out of 100 seats. 15 seats must go to scheduled caste. 7 seats must go to the scheduled tribe. Now these 22 seats must be kept independently of anyone who may occupy in the general category. Therefore, if 22 seats are taken in the general category by merit, independently of those seats, you will again be entitled to, persons belonging to that category will have an independent selection, independent number provided for in that category. Therefore, this is vertical makes possible a better form of reservation for people, so that they don't lose out on the priorities which the law wants to give to them. And then catching up principle, I said, as you get promoted, you may lose out on a principle of seniority, and the person who is senior to you in the lower cadre may catch up, and this could be stopped through a law, and that has been provided through amendment. And non-portability of another state. This portable is now a very popular expression. All of you are aware of that. You can have your cell number if you are in Bangalore or coming to Chennai. You can port that number. If it was previously Geo, you can probably take it to Airtel or vice versa. This is portable. But then about caste, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, it's not portable because each state is supposed to enumerate the backwardness, the social backwardness, the economic backwardness, and then make a list, and that is notified by the president. Once the notification is made, for instance, a Pallan who could be a scheduled caste in Tamil Nadu, if he goes to Maharashtra and applies for a college admission or takes an appointment, he will lose his scheduled caste status if he moves out of state. The only exceptions are central services and in some places in union territories. Otherwise, the famous case which went from Andhra Pradesh was of a student who was a scheduled caste in Andhra Pradesh, was seeking for admission in Maharashtra in a medical college. And he was not considered as a scheduled caste and he was not granted admission. The matter was taken. Mari Chandra Rao was this case, versus union versus Andhra Pradesh state. They said the scheduled caste status pertains to the particular state where the government, state government, on the enumeration of data, they declare somebody as backward. Therefore, that status can't be portable to some other place. So this is just that you need to know. These are concepts which will keep coming when we are hearing about reservation. I said understanding reservation, therefore I thought I should tell you this. And these amendments and the court judgment vying with each other, I just need to, I'll take another 2 more slides and I'll conclude. Just run through this. Reservation, some of these first amendment introduction, it came through Article 15(4), backward classes, special provisions could be made. Imagine what had happened. It all went. On your right, you have Champagam Dorarajan versus state of Tamil Nadu. This was a case of, before the constitution, there were some communal GOs which were there in the matter of admission to professional colleges. In that case, it was a medical college. There was a schedule prepared GO issued. Brahmins 2 seats, non-Brahmins 2 seats, Dalit 2 seats, Muslims 1 seat, Christian 1 seat. They were literally dividing the number of seats available for people, reserving them for so many people. And this Champakam, she challenged this by saying, I want to get, she was a Brahmin incidentally. I want to seek for, I am told that there is a reservation based only on the caste. And this is unacceptable. I may lose out because only certain seats are reserved. This is not fair. The Supreme Court accepted it. It said you can't have a law providing for reservation to all kind of people. Just to tell you, there can be SC/ST association, welfare association. There can't be a non-SC/ST welfare association. It's a decision from Madras High Court. That's because we want a discrimination not to be practiced in any segment. But if we make discrimination, it will be a favorable discrimination to certain classes of people who require some special privileges because of social backwardness, because of economic backwardness. So therefore, you can't have a distribution of seats providing for reservation to forward the classes also. That's completely wrong. So therefore, it was a communal GO made possible the vivisection of the society and distribution of seats depending on the caste, depending on the categories of people. They said that was not possible. The First Amendment came for backward classes. They made specific to that. And 93rd Amendment, reservation in private unaided colleges. It came through in Society of Unaided Private Schools of Rajasthan, reservation in private unaided school. Could it be an unaided school which was not getting any assistance, state aid from the state? Could they be compelled also to make reservations? They said it was possible and they came through an amendment. And then economic consideration as a manner which is relevant, which is what I'll immediately say. And this is something which is challenging. I want you to think about it because this is a matter which is pending consideration before the Supreme Court. Article 103, which provides for economic consideration, and the state can, each state can find out what is possible. See, for instance, there are states where the cost of living is high. So therefore, they've gone periodically, they've traveled from 2 lakhs to 4 lakhs to 7.5 lakhs to 12 lakhs. Any person whose family is less than 12 lakhs is economically weaker section. Now the problem is this: when we are talking about reservation where persons belong to SC and ST who are socially disempowered. The treatment has not been fair over ages, and we need to empower them. They suffer through societies and generations, and therefore an empowerment. But economic issues are not like that. In the same family, you will find one person who is rich, another person. Between brothers and sisters, there could be variance. And one year he may be economically weak, it's another year, the next year he may be rich. He may have come by some good business, some profit. So therefore, this economic consideration is quite a tricky thing, or it is a transient phase of persons. Even a person like Dhirubhai Ambani was a person who was probably working in some Middle East country in a petrol pump. But then what he made and what his son is, one of his sons has made. So therefore, economic consideration to be taken as a criterion for a reservation is riddled with a lot of problems of how long should he be economically weak? Which are the members of the family who should be weak? Is he still weak if he is being supported by somebody else who is very affluent in his family? All these are major considerations, and therefore these are issues which are going to be brought and which will come through this through 103rd Amendment, which is pending before the Parliament. And in reservation in employment, you just need to know. Before that, in the field of education, I already said 50%. Where did it come? It all came through the judgment in Balaji's state where they said the reservation cannot be more than 50%. Recently, now in a case which has gone from Andhra Pradesh, look at this. In certain societies, in some places where tribes exist in a large number, it's a hilly tribe. People are not prepared to go there, and the schools which are established there with government funds, there are not enough teachers. Andhra Pradesh had a particular problem. There are no teachers at all in several schools where scheduled tribes inhabit in large numbers. So they decided this can't work like this. Let us therefore give 100% reservation to scheduled tribes themselves in the manner of employment as teachers. And they brought out a GO like that. And this was brought in challenge before the Supreme Court. And recently, there is a judgment, the Constitution Bench judgment, which has been delivered last month with Arun Mishra making the leading judgment. And that is Chebrolu Leela Prasad Rao, where 100% reservation is bad, it is 50%. It all started with Balaji. Later, Indira Sani also, they said it is the same thing. Indira Sani, you just need to remember, is an important landmark judgment, for it gave an understanding to whether reservation could be given also to OBC, because OBC reservation came through the Mandal Commission recommendation. You all remember. Probably some of you are too young, you don't remember. You are past 92. If you are born after that, you may not have even known of what had happened. India boiled really. It went in fire in several places because so many students were engaged in that. Somewhere close to about 300 odd students immolated themselves. They had set fire on themselves, opposing reservation for OBCs because they thought Mandal was completely wrong. He decided that there are caste is the manner of determination of backwardness. This is what Mandal Commission's report was. And he said there are ever so many, he identified literally about 5,700 caste names. And in fact, this was from Kelkar's report previously. And they said backwardness in India can be identified only through caste. Caste is so seriously entrenched, certain classes of people just didn't move up at all in the social hierarchy. And he said, therefore, the economic impoverishment is not really the mark of backwardness. It is the social backwardness which results in economic impoverishment. So therefore, that is how the whole thing went. And this is an area which you must have in your mind, that economic, what causes what. For persons of Tamil who understand, which causes which, and many people believe it is the social disadvantages which cause the social, the economic impoverishment, and not vice versa. And reservation in employment, quickly to go through. Reservation in promotion could also be there because Indira Sani said there is no question of granting promotion on the basis of reservation. Therefore, that was sought to be annulled through 77th Amendment. And then lowering qualifying norms for promotion, that will be bad. You can only give the initial entry for the point you can make a reservation, but for promotion you can't bring down norms. They said no, that is also possible. That was a judgment which was set aside through the 82nd Amendment. Retention of seniority, Genua was a case which they said the catching up principle was again stated, it need not be followed. The court, the state can modify and then give out reasons. In promotion posts, there are not adequate representation. Therefore, they are entitled to go on an accelerated promotion. That came through the 85th Amendment. 103rd Amendment came through this, which is still in challenge. These amendments, because there are not too many of them, you need to associate each amendment with what had happened in courts and why they did like that. Indira Sani, I said already, this is how M. Nagaraj, they said, Nagaraj was an important pronouncement in the year 2007 when Indira Sani, after Indira Sani, it was sought to be set aside through, it was annulled through an amendment, and therefore reservation and promotion, is it possible? Retention of seniority of what Genua says is not possible, catching a principle, could it be modified? M. Nagaraj said it is possible. And there is no fundamental right to reservation, is the judgment which was recently pronounced. It is again a restatement of what has already been there. It came through Justice Nageshwar Rao and Hemant Gupta. They have not said anything wrong, but that the states will not do adequate protection for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe by framing laws, by not notifying reservations when they are setting up posts and when they are drafting appointments and recruiting people. That's sad. It shouldn't happen. So therefore, the court felt helpless in the situation. Probably could have left with the kind of a exhortation to the state. Now we want you to look into it and come back to us. It's possible. You don't need to close something. You can force them to do it by saying this, because every politician makes an issue later, but they don't say it is the politicians themselves who are responsible for not making reservation in particular posts, and that's what should have been done by the state. And it was a case which went from Uttar Pradesh, and sad, but the Supreme Court said that there was a reason why it said. Now, just want you to know something, that with all this, because it's at all times a concern, how many more years are we going to have reservation? Is it a country of backward community at all times? We have not probably, we must know that we have not done too well in the manner of percentage of SC employees in central government services. It's grossly low. You see the numbers. I'm not going to be seeing in class 1 service is such abysmally low. It started with 1.18%. We have now come a little far in 2000. And same way, wherever you have SC/ST representation in a big number, it's only for class 4 posts. Safai wala. Should we not be seeing a whole group of people, whole society amongst us, our brothers, moving up in all societies, occupying big positions everywhere? Why is it not happen? It's not happened because they're still socially disempowered, is what we need to know. I'm not reading, but because we need to know. Today there is an article, a friend of mine had forwarded that even the issue of judicial appointments. You have in Munsif subordinate judges in district courts, fairly good representation from backward classes. But then when you're talking about scheduled caste representation in the Supreme Court, it's still class driven. That is what is a serious charge which is done. You can even name the judges, 6 judges who have gone to Supreme Court. That's the way it goes. So therefore, these are matters which we need to ponder when we are talking about, should the reservation continue? You need to know, is it that they have occupied all big posts? Who prevents them? It's not the question. You must know a person whose parent is not educated, who is a migrant worker, who goes now to Bihar back. Yesterday's paper says about 1,400 children from these schools have been taken along with these migrant population. You know what's happening in these schools? Of those persons who are there in corporation, other persons, they come up to 9th standard, you don't have any devotion, you don't have any detention. So persons coming from Bihar, they're put in the school. They wouldn't know one word of Tamil, but then they will be in a Tamil medium. You ask them to write their own name, they may probably, the best thing is to write their own name. You have persons coming like that, the parent works somewhere. What kind of assistance are we giving? What kind of help is possible? How do we see an empowerment? How do we see them moving up? Serious issues. We can't be a society well knit so long as we have a whole lot of people who are not coming along with us. There is something seriously in deficit. This is what we need to understand and realize. This I wouldn't take you higher education also. I just wanted to, this connection, I won't be able to take it now. I'll conclude it. This again, I want you to know that in terms of presence of the ratio of persons who are there in amongst the SC/ST in schools, I just have it there with me. For scheduled caste, it is 19.1% is the gross enrollment ratio in the age between 18 to 23. I was looking at the statistics for higher education. Where are they going? Beyond school? Why do they not go beyond Safai Wala? Because not too many people come to higher education. And the higher education of between the age of 18 to 23, the gross enrollment ratio is a gross enrollment ratio is in terms of the population in various segments of education from class 1 to here we are talking about higher education. We are talking about beyond school. It is as low as 19.1%. Students, you have only 19.1 making that. In scheduled tribe, it's even low. It's 4.7%, and for general, it is 24.3. For them, is still very low. And this again, I will not take you. Will reservation not be stopped? It's carrying the same topic of what is telling you. They are not adequately. They're not doing too well. Just the tabulation of what I have, a graph of what I have given to you. I'll not read them on, but I'll just tell you that they don't rank. When you're talking about scheduled tribe, it's 4.38%, 4.60%, 7% reservation is what the Constitution provides. We are not able to get them anywhere there in that. Again, you talk about for scheduled caste and where do they go? There are 12%, 13%, 13.47%, all below the 17%. They are not represented in public appointments in any place above the percentage of what you are trying to secure for them. And general category, the MBCs, OBCs, they have done rather well. They have gone from 27%. They are always above the 27% in the post with the occupy as backward classes. But they have relatively better. But general category, therefore, you have seen even general category is therefore you have all the heartaches. It's even less than 50% now in the public appointments. In general category, you have less than 50% because the OBCs do well through merit. They compete well. But then for SC/ST, things are still way ahead for us. We need to go a long way, is what we need to know. The effects of reservation, with this I conclude, we need to know this. The salient features of reservation are larger representation of underprivileged classes in the hitherto educational institutions have happened. I gave you the statistics. We have seen a gradual growth from how it was in the year 1949-51 to how it was as low as 1.7% or something. We have come somewhere close to about 14-15%. So therefore, representation in education institutions is relatively better, thanks to the reservations of what the Constitution provides for. And higher echelons of public employment are more they're slightly more evenly divided. I also showed to you that they are not adequate. They're still low. And we need more. So, but why is it not happening? The negative followers is it is becoming taken somewhere as always anti-merit. I already told you when Hopwood's example that in matter of admission to education institutions or employments, merit. We're not saying unmeritorious candidate to be taken, but different considerations must exist. Is what we need to know. There is a reason why we think reservation is essential. For we need that empowerment in the society for an orderly living. Otherwise, we just don't figure out as human beings. What are we now? Otherwise, that is where you must look. Reservation issue has been politicized. They are seen as vote blocks. So therefore, you allow those people to exist the same way they are. And that is what suits the politicians. For you have them in bulk, you can show them in large numbers, and they can vote en bloc. And you can pander to their lower angry sentiments by saying all kind of things and pitching one group of people against another. So that's a negative follow to the manner of understanding reservations. And provisions which are only intended to be transient for a period of 10 years, they are not coming to a close. Because that's how it will be. You can't say we'll have reservation for 50 years. They used to be saying about the amendment when the American Declaration of Independence was made in 1776. It was credited to Jefferson, who said there are bound to be amendments. Every generation will know what is essential. They will make the changes in law. That is how the Constitution will work. I will apply it here. Every society will see the change, will uprise itself. This is not good enough. We need to do more. We need to see that there are adequate representation. We need to create appropriate ambience for better education, better cultural growth. All that must happen. And that if it doesn't happen, we are not growing. But what happens, therefore, when we are talking about reservation of people getting angry one to another, we are perpetuating caste system. How do we therefore go out of it? I would therefore see way forward to three groups of students. Annihilate caste. Don't use caste except when it is essential for getting some privileges for those persons who are backward. Otherwise, marry beyond caste. That's what an annihilation of caste, which speech which Ambedkar prepared for a speech at Lahore. He said caste marriage is the only way of growth, and that is the only way we can shed our caste. Abjure caste prejudices. Don't have a prejudice against any caste. Don't take it away from your vocabulary. If there is anything which you say, associate some conduct or character with reference to a caste, stop it today. Take a resolve today. I will not use any caste remarks, casteist remarks. That you must do. You may have heard about your father or your mother, or somebody else saying something bad. You will not do it, is what you need to know. And then in the area of education, in your college, when you are moving out, you have seen what it is, what privileges which you have enjoyed. See what you can give back to the institution by setting up an endowment. All these alumni institutions must come up together and then give back something. Recognize the persons who are backward, who must be empowered through good education. Through education alone, we'll be able to grow. And in technical education, more and more people must come. Just not your ordinary arts and science. It's not arts and science is bad, but I'm saying in technical education, they secure better chances of employment and vocation. And more avenues of employment must happen. And even as a private employer, adopt, even if you are ever going to be a private employer, or if you are going to be a boss sometime somewhere recruiting people, have in your mind, don't get too casteist to pick your own caste person. Look beyond that caste. Try and see that in the manner of appointments, you have a fair distribution of people and picked up from persons who belong to the lower strata of society. That is important. And an increased public responsibility amongst the private entrepreneurship is essential. While you have all your entrepreneurship in the way you run your business or whatever you do, have a strong social responsibility. Think it is essential. That is the way we can grow. So this I would think is I probably spilled much more than what I planned to be saying originally, but I think I've gone through whatever I think it's essential. So I conclude my talk with this, and I'll take your questions. And I see already some questions which are marked. If I may read, the first question which I see is Ananda Krishnan. Yes. The central government, do I see the question? I'll push it. It's getting in my... the central government has given 10% reservation for the economically weaker section, not to the generally economic weaker section, but to the forward caste. What was your comment? I've already spoken about that. In fact, it is not the central government which does. It leaves it to the state government to make their own laws. And Gujarat has already done. Telangana probably is the other state which has also made this provision. And the court has not granted any stay. The Supreme Court has not granted stay, but there are writ petitions which are filed before the Supreme Court. To my view, if you are asking my opinion, I can only say I will not favor this because I think economic consideration is too transient, and to provide for a 10% for economically weaker section, even if he's a forward community. You are asking a direct question, and therefore I will say that, because I will not take that to be a permanent status. It is too short. This year I would be economically disempowered, and my child would have taken an admission. Next year, if I become affluent, if I made a big time profit, if I've turned around, what happens to the child which has already secured the benefit of admission there? That's unfair. So therefore, I will not take economic consideration, because the problem is this: what causes what? In my view, economic impoverishment is a result of social prejudices. And socially disempowered people are the people who are generally economically bad. So therefore, we must tackle that social disempowerment and the bad issues of backwardness, social backwardness. And that is where our focus must be. Our focus ought not to be economic disempowerment. I'm not saying we should allow people to go for poverty, but I'm saying the reservation concept itself came only for the social empowerment and not for alleviation of poverty. It will be wrong. If one is taken care of, another will be taken care of, is how our constitution makers thought. And that is the reason why they did not provide anything special. They merely use the expression backwardness. And backwardness, I would understand, and the constitution debates will show that we're all concerned about the social exclusion of certain classes of people, and which Mandal recognized, and what Kelkar said was on account of caste. So therefore, that's how I'll see.
Abul Hassan?
Hassan has to say, should the creamy layer criteria be applied among SC/ST community? No, for heaven's sake, no. Don't ever say creamy layer. Creamy layer is some concept which came through Indira Sahni's judgment. Indira Sahni, when they were approving of OBC reservation, they were confronted with a question from powerful advocates. That was probably the last argument which Nani Palkuvala made. And the point was, there are ever so many persons, because amongst OBCs, there are landed property, landed gentry are also in OBCs. So therefore, they have lands. There are persons who, despite the fact that they belong to a caste which has not progressed well, there could be a section of people who are too well off. Why would we provide any assistance to them? So therefore, they said, though creamy layer must be rejected, must be excluded, was Indira Sahni. So therefore, when they said that, the point came later in Nagaraj also. Justice Ravindran's sensitive judgment must be read by you all, where he directly took this issue. Creamy layer issue, what happens amongst SC/ST is the social exclusion that they suffer from. It is not economic. I have heard, I'm open there on a topic like this. I have known of persons, even amongst judges, who have complained how they have been treated badly, otherwise knowing the caste brand. So therefore, it is true, it is till date it exists. We still see the difficulties which we thrust on people in SC/ST class, regardless of the advancement economically, the social downgradation of what happens in the society at large. We must eschew it. The whole new generation, youngsters like you, will eschew it. But it has not happened. Till recently, it has not happened. Therefore, there's no question. For me, the question of applying creamy layer criteria to SC/ST shall not happen. So it will be too dangerous a thing. It will be applying a wrong principle in a case which was considering only issue of OBC reservation. There they talked about the creamy layer, not ever in this situation. That shouldn't happen. So the next one is,
Shoaib.
Isn't it a popular perception that reservation will affect merit? This again, I thought I discussed with you, that in field of education, it's not at all times the academic merit which is the deciding criterion for selection to a particular thing. I gave you the instance of how there needs to be a reasonably widespread representation. I happened to be there in an international university in Stanford some time back, sitting through a class. There were the point which was taken to them by the professor, Janet Martinez, she was giving them a problem about conflict resolution. How do you develop a system? That I was the oldest person to be sitting in the class because I was given special permission. Imagine otherwise an old man like me sitting in a classroom. That doesn't seem fair. So I was there in Janet's class, and there were 22 persons. And there was a person from Afghanistan, there was a person from Chile, there was a person from London, there was a person from Mexico, and a person from Afghanistan, Muhammad. He made references. I truly, I loved him. I went and hugged him later. He quoted the Supreme Court judgment, Indian Supreme Court, and said about how economic empowerment and social empowerment. Social empowerment is the first thing to happen in conflict resolution. He's picking up some issue which to him, the Indian Supreme Court gives an answer for him. And the same problem, how this so many persons coming from different countries, how they had their own perspectives, how it enriched the debate. And that is what is essential. We can't be merely thinking all about 93% they'll take admission. No, that's completely wrong. It won't work at all. What do you like in a garden? If there are roses which are beautiful, all roses, just that rose, and imagine rose by its side another color, or jasmine, or a sunflower. Look at the kind of combination. And that's how a society is. That's how we all are. Look at ourselves. In your class, look around how everyone else is. That's lovely. We have a combination of persons. I have a brown, black, white, curly, straight. That's the way I want. That is the way thin lip, thick lip, all people. That's the way our looks, our intelligence. Intelligence again is just some shallow word. It's some persons are genetically endowed. Doesn't mean anything. If somebody is extraordinarily bright or something, what is it that he has done? He has just inherited some brightness in spite of himself. So therefore, it doesn't mean anything. So therefore, you must understand it does not. We should take it away from our mind that reservation somewhere hampers merit. It does not. We require that combination, and therefore that's the way I will see. Neither in education nor in employment. Or it may not be possible that all the society is at par, all could be placed at the same level of intelligence, same level of performance. We'll all have different levels of performance. As a lawyer, you'll find one judge is good and one lawyer is good than the other. One case is stronger than that. You have all combinations. That's how it is. It is the yin and the yang. That's how it will happen. It will happen in both ways. That is the good and the bad. It's the right and the wrong. It will happen in our society. Therefore, we'll accept people as they are and reward for what they are worth and how they are contributing. That is how we must do. In employment, in school, in colleges. That's how it should go. So
Sir,
that is to that. And Ragul.
Sir, one question from, excuse me, sir, from Shoaib. He was the first person as a student began to start that question. The reservation is temporary. The 104th Amendment had extended the reservation till 2030. On what basis?
I told you again, because I'm thinking your questions are even before you heard what I said. Is this going to be continuous? I posed the question for you. In fact, I'm glad you have thought about it. In fact,
but I did not give the question.
No, I didn't say about that to you, Dr. Prema. I'm merely saying one of the students' question. In my slide, I said, is this going to be continuous? Is what the question. I wanted you to debate about it and think about it. We have these amendments of what has happened over a period of time. I'll just see now. These amendments of what you note, they've come through various stages. These I can read to you the various periods when they have come. They have just a minute of your time. I'll come to that, and then what are those amendments? Yes, I have 8th Amendment in the year 1960 for 10 years, 23rd Amendment in 1970 for 10 years, 45th Amendment in 1980 for 10 years, 62nd Amendment 89-90 for 10 years, 79th Amendment in 2000 for 10 years, 95th Amendment and 104th Amendment in 202. So this, when it is happening, it is, I told you immediately the statistics of what we have. We have not been able to empower SCs and STs in good measure. Our educational, in higher education, they are not doing well enough. They are not sufficiently granted seats. In the public appointments of what we have, they still fall below the percentage of what they represent in the society. So therefore, we have not advanced, but we have not done badly. Actually, if supposing they have not, the standards have not increased at all, then we have a reason to complain that the reservation has not done anything. Everyone is ultimately competing one to another. Therefore, we will not have reservation. Reservation has done good. We have seen several persons who are moving up. There are several persons who occupied high positions. So therefore, that movement is not sufficient yet. That is what we need to know. Constitution makers couldn't have said that for 100 years we'll have reservation and later we'll not. It will be only in incremental steps. That's why I also quoted to you Jefferson. Jefferson said that do we have a constitution which will be unamendable? No. Each society, the society will decide periodically. This percentage, whether this reservation, whether we must have it, do we have it for some more time, do we close it? All this will be seen by the society periodically. And for us, when we say society periodically, what do we understand? Society periodically is once in 5 years when we have elections. Our elected representatives will decide whether we should have some more extension or not. Do we need something extra to be done or not? All this will require to be done. I'm sure that is the way it should go. Yeah. And
yes, sir.
Yeah,
sir.
Prema.
Yeah.
Some
it
more
is also
questions.
Prabhakaran Karthikeyan.
Prabhakaran Karthik in Tamil Nadu, even after democratizing, the growth is still found that not enough representation is from SC/ST. What more can be done to increase the representation? What more can be done? I've told you that in spite of what we have done, now you must know our state is one of the states which has a representation of more than 50%. You know, there are cases in the Supreme Court about this increase of representation. It does not happen to SC and ST. The other groups are taking a large slice. The SC/ST reservation continues to be only 15% and 7%. My concern is essentially for them, for they suffer a serious social disempowerment. So why it's not sufficient? We can only see, I was telling you what we can do at how we can increase the scholarships, how we can increase private assistance and additional. If you are a person who is good in studies and why don't you pick up some person who is not having that kind of support from home? What I can do to my son with my understanding, with my slightly above intellectual abilities, may not happen to a person who is a security person's son. We are all not placing our children at par, and they have different levels of attainment only because of different levels of tutoring, different levels of support. And I have known, because this is again a story which was shared in a private school here, where at the 6th standard, when my friend went to the class and was asking, I'm now giving to you postcards, write a letter to your father. They said, writing a letter, then saying, first give me your address. Out of 42 students, 39 of them did not know their address. Then they only give, sir, this is how you don't, what the parents, they go out for work in the morning, and these children are dispatched, and many of them come to school only because there is some food available there for lunch. These are the realities. Please, for heaven's sake, understand. All these laws of what we have, they only tackle one small issue of so much which is not taken care of, or is how the family exists there, what kind of support that the child get. So therefore, we have a long way to go. we are, one way of looking at it is we are not a old democracy. We had all our riches. We were impoverished by constant, if I can use the Tamil expression, constant surrender by the British. We lost a lot of it. And to get rich again, we are rich probably intellectually. Culturally, we are such vibrant, diverse people. We must cash in on those wonderful things. That I'm not the same as you. I don't belong in the same tradition as you is fine. You must celebrate all this diversity. That is how we can progress. And if this reservation has not helped, it is helping. We have seen the statistics, it has helped. It will help over a period of time. Don't have any quick fixes for this for me. We can only expect proper social response of not smarting insults against persons who are lower than us. That is unfair. Accept reservation as a constitutional goal, as a moral issue which you will embrace it with all passion. Don't crib about reservation. Accept it is essential for our society. That is the only way we can grow in the global arena. When we can be reckoned as something, it can happen only if we grow. It is who is happy about Dharavi slums? It's so near the airport. You just take off, you see the whole lot of space. They live in utter squalor. And last year, for some dance competition in USA, those slum children made it. They were the first, and you see the performance available in the YouTube of Dharavi slum children in We Are the Best or something like that. The competition goes by make the America the greatest or something like that. But then, what kind of performance? What is not there available in our slums? They're driven, they're distracted in so many ways. Identify talent everywhere. There is a girl child from Viluppuram whose father was in Dharavi slum. She was 2 years back the CA All India first. What did the child do? And the child, it is such a touching thing when they inquire her and then say, you got All India first. What do you plan to do? I plan to give my parents full good meal every day. That's all. What a way to start. So therefore, we have talents everywhere, but it will take some time. We'll go through with that. If the principle of reservation is not applied in higher judiciary, can the judgments become inclusive? Yeah, that's the problem. You're asking the question because it has come through the judgments, and higher post reservations are not there. In the Supreme Court, you don't have. You have had only 6 judges. I can name the 6 judges of the Supreme Court who from the scheduled caste. Justice Varadarajan was the first one to go from here. Now Gawai is the only person who belongs to SC who is in the Supreme Court. So this is not a good thing. Can the judgment be inclusive? I would like to believe persons like me would always be inclusive. Did I care for who it was? But I would be sensitive about their needs. It's essential. You go out of the country, you immediately know that beyond this boundaries of state, I've seen another Indian. You go from out of your state, oh, I see a Tamilian. You stay in your, go out of your town, it is my town fellow. Whenever you go out of it, you go back to the next lower order and feel yourself happy about your identification with that person. As a judge, if you move, after all, that is what was Hopwood's case is about. We need a representation. We need judges who belong to all categories of people. I need a Hispanic. I need an Afro-American. I need a Caucasian. All those I need an Asian Indian. All those persons are essential. That kind of a society is what we have. We need representation. That is why probably there is a lovely expression of what I saw in the morning. Reservation is about adequate representation and not poverty alleviation. This is what I read in the morning. This is about a judgment where in Chebrolu Leela, where Arun Mishra has penned the judgment. 5 persons are writing, and in the bench, you don't have an important issue relating to reservation. A person who is classified was seen, though he did not get to be a judge only for that reason, but he is there after all. His services must be there. You need a good representation. That's what you feel happy about. Will we not say, hey, is it not essential? Does it not go into our mind? Is it not a natural way of looking at things? I would therefore think it's essential. But if it is not happening, it is not happening. Does it not make it inclusive? It's uncomfortable for me. But then all the same, it is true.
Yes, sir.
Economically wealthier classes are using the reservation loop and becoming even more wealthier, while the economically weaker sections remain the same. Is it not possible for India to make reservations based on people's economy? I've already said strongly against it, Mr. Cholan. So therefore, economic consideration for me is completely wrong. It's misguided. It is transient. It ought not to be taken as a ground for reservation. So I'm absolutely against it. It's by law, 104th Amendment, it has already become law. When I'm a judge, I'll write probably upholding that. But somebody brings it to me and brings it to a debate, I'll say it is wrong. So therefore, if I have to affirm the constitution and I have to apply a law somewhere, there as a judge, I will apply it. But if I'm the judge who is going to be deciding whether that law should exist or not, I'll say it ought not exist. It's the same thing as saying, is death sentence fair? Death sentence to me is wrong. But if there is a provision for death sentence there, and if there is a case which gives itself by the parameters applied that death sentence must be given, I'll go with it. So that's how it is. So,
sir, one more question from interesting question. I feel it is about reservations for SC/ST and Anglo-Indian seats in Legislative Assembly, because it is being extended for past 70 years, but it has not fulfilled and improved conditions and still extended, sir. So the question
about Anglo-Indians, I must tell you, they had Abu Abraham was a famous Anglo-Indian who was a cartoonist who would draw in Indian Express. They had a small percentage. They didn't want, even at the time, they didn't. It was one community which had an English blood, and therefore they were too proud, and therefore they said, no, we don't want reservation. I don't know now. Anglo-Indians, probably there was only community which lost out because they did not want reservation. And there is not too many Anglo-Indians actually. Many of them migrated to Australia when Australia opened its gates in the 70s and 80s. So therefore, those are all the persons who were all given employment. Mostly they were all in railways or engine drivers. Many of them were. So you'll find them in very small groups here and there. They're not a large community of people who can affect in any sense. Even if you say a percentage is provided, there are not enough number of persons probably in various fields to clamor for employment. So that's how I would see. As per the judgment in Indira Sani, Supreme Court says reservation should not exceed 50, whereas Tamil Nadu reservation has up to 69%. I showed the picture of Ramaswamy because we have come to accept certain social empowerment through legislation is essential. So therefore, we were prepared to accept it. While soon after Mandal not burnt, we did not. You know what? When we talk about reservation, we talk about reservation in government sectors only. And now all private enterprises, be it in Bombay to Bangalore to Chennai or Hyderabad, there were more employments which these companies provided here than in North India. Probably Gujarat is one exception. But otherwise, if you're talking about Punjab and Haryana, it's all about agriculture and agriculture related things. There's nothing like an industry. So therefore, for them, the job is all government job. So if students feel unhappy and they would run riot, they felt threatened by the additional reservation of 27% coming. For us, it didn't matter because there was adequate private companies where they were getting employed. But I was saying something more. I said, even as a private employer, try and see how we can accommodate all sections of people. That is the way to go. That is the way forward, is what I would think. 50% is what they said. This magic figure, 50%, Indira Sani said, we have reminded by the 50%, that 69%, whether it could be there or not, there is a challenge which no court is prepared to, which no bench is prepared to take. That has been hanging fire for quite some time. There's another area which I did not discuss at all: minorities and reservations. Such a committee says the majority of Muslims are and they would require empowerment. They don't have any reservation, except they can be branded as backward. They can come within that OBC 27%, and they take a very small bag, a very small advantage there. And such a committee makes a recommendation, make a 5% reservation for them. In some state they did, it was challenged, it has been stayed. Kind of a regionally, which is requiring an upliftment, which is the society which is downgraded, which would require to be uplifted, is to be seen from a regional point of view. An all India point, I may not be able to say. If 50% Indira Sani says and there are 69%, do we have situations which is comfortable? Look at I was looking at the statistics actually of court litigations, because how we lose money on litigations in education, in public appointment. Tamil Nadu doesn't fare too much better than other states in North for SC, STs or for OBC. It's about the same thing. In spite of your 69%, by and large, the statistics kind of even out. So therefore, there is nothing very seriously threatened for us. I don't think a person who is in general category ought to feel disheartened. There is so much of scope in so many areas in Tamil Nadu and around. So therefore, I don't grieve about it. If it's the court says tomorrow, don't have 69%, we have 50%, you'll probably create more difficulties for people. We don't know. So I'm not prepared to say right now, am I affected? I'm not. 69%, is it bad? It's not bad. Why is it not bad? We have come to accept it. Or the persons requiring that kind of assistance, yes, they do perhaps, because we have not done any better than other states. This is my answer one to another. So are schools and colleges justified in reserving a percentage of seats of a specific caste or class of students? I would say caste or class, if they are scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, yes. And Mandal recognizes caste as a basis for social backwardness also. And OBC reservation is based on caste. If it is going to be economic consideration, we already answered. So therefore, schools and colleges may not really be just to be looking only for academic excellence. I've already said that also, that there is admission to be as a reward for academic excellence is wrong. Don't go to that path at all. That there are excellent students, brilliant students, they must be rewarded is fine. But for my admission, I will have only academic excellence. I will not worry. If I'm going to empower a person who is not bright and make him brighter, that is where I think I've taken a big challenge in one. And that is how the colleges must be. They ought not to be thinking all in, like MIT in Boston. You have probably Mensa of 150, 140. Their IQ is 140 plus. You will have only them and then train them as business magnets. Business magnets know what they do, how they can do, how they manipulate, how they can manipulate things in stock markets. I'm not saying the bright people are all crooks. I'm saying they don't really mean anything in a big way. Bright students have their places. That's all. Beyond that, don't give too much value. Bright is bright. That's all. Feel happy is bright. Your child is bright. Another child is not as bright. Is going to be immediately disliked by you. No. For you, both of them are children, aren't they? Are they the same level of intelligent quotient they have? No, they may not have. So that is the way you look at it. So don't associate too much of value to brilliance. That they exist. That's all. And not so brilliant, not therefore a bad person. Don't think like that. Why special privileges are given to Anglo-Indians alone? No, that's what I'm saying. Anglo-Indians, they never very poorly educated because they spoke. See, for many people who can't speak English, speaking English is a big deal, is big education. Anglo-Indians spoke English because that was the mother tongue. And that mother tongue also was in a language which is not at all times a fine Queen's English. So therefore, they were truly economically and socially not treated well. It was meaning no disrespect to any Anglo-Indian who is there as a listener. We didn't treat them properly. We only consigned them. We'll imitate their bad accent, the language which they'll do. We never treated them properly, and they required all kind of assistance. Why not? Why would you even think? Why should Anglo-Indians not give a reservation? They were given a paltry reservation of 1 or 2%. I don't think it exists also. So therefore, they never were beyond. Tell me of too many, like I gave an example of Abu Abraham. There were not too many persons who had moved up in society. They were principally employed in railways or probably as engine drivers or something, and didn't take any big employments. They required all kind of thing. Instead of reservation, do you have an alternate for social equality? Do I have an alternative for social equality? I don't know. We all need to improve. Therefore, I took the last slide as that. What is the way forward? Abjure caste in your personal life. Recognize, if it's possible, intercaste marriages. Yes, I have no problem. If there is a way of a private employer, who do you give employment to? Go beyond your own caste. So therefore, take caste prejudices out of your mind. That is the biggest contribution you can make to society functioning going about. What is hindering the permanent abolition of caste reservation in India? Caste will not go so easily, friend. Malavika, this is, if you are a Tamil reading person, Mohanram, I would like to believe so. I was reading a book by Jayamogan, and it's about Indira Gandhi. If you read Tamil, please read that book. It handles this question in the initial pages, in the 35 to 60. The question is a disastrous question. The question is Gandhi a Baniya, and did he have a Baniya mentality? Now, Baniya are the business people, like we have a Chettiars here. Or a business, the Goyals and the Mittals, they are the Baniya community. They are advanced. So he says 2,000, 3,000 years of our existence, where it initially had the caste system, it provided to each caste certain values genetically. It flowed from one to another. And there are some great qualities which any particular caste gave. And that quality, if it is good, we should retain. So therefore, the youngest religion in the world is Sikhism. It originated just about 400 years back. Every other religion, or the major religions of the world, they're all centuries old. And Sikhism was started on the promise that it will be casteless. But we know you have a Dalit Sikh, you have Nirankari, which work, and there are the Bedis who see themselves as a priestly class of persons. And there are the Jat Sikhs who own all lands. So therefore, they have all the divisions. And you have in the Muslims and Christians also all the caste. You have, I don't want to name, but you know that. How amongst the Muslims, how among the Christians, you have caste practices. They won't marry easily outside the caste. So this just doesn't go out of a system. That we don't have caste prejudice is what is important. That we will move towards a life in future that we will exist above caste will happen if only if we cross marry. Otherwise, I see no chance. Even there in that marriage, you will find one will align. If a SC marries, let us say Mudaliar, they'll move into the Mudaliar community. That's how. It's always a social travel upwards, mobility upwards. It will happen. But after some time, it will go. Your generation, you, Malavika, will be the person who will be responsible for taking it out of your system. We have all come through this. Take the prejudice away. Your generation, this generation is the generation which must see that our caste system goes out. But we'll still recognize caste because it is on that basis we provide some privileges. And those privileges are still necessary. That is what you think. We'll rule out caste. In the matrimonial ads, if you are still, I wrote a judgment like that. All the newspapers must have a kind of a promise to the society that in their matrimonial ads, they will not allow any person to insert the caste name there. Why would an Iyengar girl want an Iyengar boy? Why does a Naidu girl want a Naidu boy? Why do we go after these caste names when we're talking about seeking matrimonial companies? may not be fair. We will not be able to rule out caste out of a system that way. So look beyond that caste. It will happen over a period of time. We need to create the kind of society which will see an egalitarian society which does not respect caste. And we may still retain all those good qualities of what that genetic component of what the caste brought to us. And that if that happens, it's the greatest thing. Then, do we have anything else, Dr. Prema?
Yes, sir, because a few questions are repeated here. And one question I have just posted, it is from Dr. Ananthakrishnan, and it is about zero OBC reservation in the postgraduate medical seats. Maybe you can pick one, sir, because I'm in the position that I have to remind you. We have just spent nearly 1 hour and 45 minutes, and we did not see the time.
Yeah, I said 1.5 hours. I don't have a problem. The persons are going to be seriously fatigued. I'll be feeling bad. And see, reservation at some point it should go probably. But then I can't think of a society which is empowered right through. In no part of the world it has ever happened. There is some form of assistance which will be given to some sections of the people. And therefore, to that extent, we'll recognize they'll continue with us. But we'll probably reassess periodically. And that is why a 10-year window of what we have is fair enough. We'll probably be moving towards a time when we'll have an appraisal coming every now and then. That's the way I would think will be happening. For medical college, that's why again, in higher, for instance, in higher courses, for postgraduate courses, you don't have reservation. But at the stage when you seek for an admission, that is for MBBS admission, you have a reservation. You have all college admissions, you have even cutoff marks could be different. That's all fair. We need only the idea today for me was to say the fairness quotient of what exists in the reservation. And there is not so serious an issue that we need to be bothered about as anti-merit. It need not be conceived like that at all. It ought not to be even looked in that way.
Yes, sir. So our dean is on the line now. He was listening.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy. You put in a lot of work on graphics, data, and everything. And it is very difficult. It is really amazing. You worked on really 2-3 days on that. And we are all really benefited. But it is only one introspection about this reservation. The reservation kind of a discussion will go on and on. It will not stop as long as reservation is living with us. But the point that you mentioned that, the SC and STs, why there is no improved tally. I think, my assessment is that when you have opening because you said, your last sentence was very effective. You said that it is not the poverty eradication program. And most of the people, we believe that it is a poverty eradication program. Our mentality is like that. Right or wrong, it is a different matter. Say, for example, when you pass 8th standard, you get job. When you pass, fail 8th standard, you will get job. You pass 10th standard, you will get job. And you will fail by 10th standard, you will get job. Then, in the present existences, getting job is, it is a better thing than, wasting the time for 20-30 years for, further studies and other things. Maybe, their approach may be right or wrong because their social circumstances we tell, but we have to encourage them and we have to, influence them that, it is don't compromise on this. And this is a start, you will get it. And even above, if you go there also, you will get it. That kind of confidence should be given, but the society, whether we are giving as a part of society or not, that is one issue. Then another thing, there is the OBCs we are talking about. The OBC are doing well, and that is a picture that has been given. Very good. OBC. Yeah.
Statistics together.
Yeah. OBC is doing well because when there is a flip-flop in the reservation system, that makes certain people as OBC, there is a possibility that they will be considered as the other category. They would come in also in OBC. And as a judge, you are aware that most of the cases, even the OBCs, and they are just occupying the general positions in Government of India. Because I know that I myself, I was OBC, but at no time, I enjoyed this privilege because I joined straight away in the central government, and I never cared for OBC. I know that there are so many grade A officers as well as in the civil service group. All of them from, there is a OBC crowd is there, and they never benefited out of the reservation. So the kind of a orientation is, you rightly said that diversity is very important, that should be maintained. And diversity, for the purpose of a diversity, all the communities and caste should be there. But at the same time, and we have to uplift the people who are all historically, considered as very weak to contest with others. That's a good thing, I think. And I think we have a very good lecture. And I was recalled about, the Maria Gudam's lecture on the day you came. He also delivered the lecture. Almost, he has come to the same conclusion like what you have concluded. He said that, there is whatever that on economic criteria on the basis of reservation, he said that it is unconstitutional according to him.
I also
and
think
second, that the second thing, he said that, and it will always be there, the reservations will always be there, and there is nothing wrong about that. That is what he has also concluded. Anyway, it is 1.5 hours or 1 hour and 45 minutes. Time flies like that, how it has gone, and we could not even take a breath. We were just, continually following you. It's a wonderful lecture. I must thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Dr. And thank you, Dr. Prema. Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. It's my pleasure.
So formally, I'll make the vote of thanks now. Sir, we felt the morning energy. So maybe I'll request a few, a few students, they have messaged me that my question is not answered. So I said that the time is very much limited, and that is one specialty for Kannan sir, where you can find his YouTube lectures there. I found one in Nalsar today. Before seeing you, I was just watching that. So I'll just request the students, and we wholeheartedly thank you, sir, because you are such a busy person, and you are very kind enough to accept our invitation. And thank you so much from VIT School of Law and VIT Management. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It's my privilege. So I'll take your leave from the meeting.